Welcome to Hip Hop Movie Club, the show that harmonizes the rhythm of hip hop with the magic of movies. Today we're discussing the movie adaptation of Lin-Manuel Miranda's In the Heights. We are three old heads who put their old heads together to vibe on these films for you. I'm Dino Wright, podcaster, filmmaker, longtime hip hop fan, and the last thing I got digging in the crates this week is a copy of Rappin' Rodney, a rap song by Rodney Dangerfield recorded in 1983.
You got no respect. Nice one. I'm JB, 80s and 90s nostalgia junkie, longtime hip-hop fan. I'm already jonesing right now for a rematch in NBA Jam versus Boogie, who just beat me with his Denver Nuggets squad against my Seattle Supersonics.
It was on my World Guru Roof. I'm Boogie, a DJ, longtime hip-hop fan, and I'm feeling pretty energized coming off of our HHMC retreat this past weekend.
Right on.
Yeah. In this episode, we'll answer the question, which elements of hip-hop culture are on display in the Heights? And we'll give you 5 key takeaways to make you a smarter hip-hop movie fan.
In the Heights is the story of a young bodega owner, who's Navi, and his sueñito, little dream, of moving back to his homeland of the Dominican Republic and restoring his late father's business. We also see the story of his very tight-knit community of friends and extended family trying to achieve their own sueñitos, such as Kevin Rosario and his daughter Nina, Benny, Vanessa, Sonny, Abuela, and others. Washington Heights is alive with the pride of Latin culture in this film.
There are 5 things you need to know about In the Heights. Number 1, there are multiple elements of hip-hop culture present in the film, and the rapping is on point. Number 2, several Latin cultures are represented, showing the diversity of Washington Heights. Number 3, the vocal talent is top-notch, and the dancing and choreography sizzle. Number 4, the film weaves in serious elements that give the light and bright storytelling some drama and weight. And number 5, there are multiple storylines, all tied toward the common theme of realizing dreams.
Right on. Boogie, why don't you kick us off and talk about the multiple elements of hip-hop culture that were present in the Heights?
Yeah, so In the Heights, the predominant element that we see on display in this movie is MCing. There's various songs throughout the film in which we see Uznavi, Sonny, and a couple other characters. They're just MCing different things that are going on throughout the film. And it's not just your typical rap that we see, like something like a song on the radio. They're actually rapping through what's going on at the moment. Kind of very similar to Hamilton, as you know, this was by the same person who did Hamilton, Lin-Manuel Miranda. So it's a very similar style to how Hamilton was, as far as each character having the ability to pretty much rock a mic, if you will, throughout the film. There's also graffiti is present throughout the film as well. There's a character, Graffiti Pete. He introduced pretty early in the film. We see him tagging Uznavi's bodega, and Uznavi chases him away because he's trying to steal something. But then you see him throughout the film tagging murals and things like that. And he also ends up, in the end of the movie, having a pretty impactful part of the movie. I'm not going to give too much away with that, but just keep in mind that he's a very important character in the end of the movie. We also see breakdancing. Not a whole lot of it, but I did catch there was a blackout that does occur in the movie because it's one of the hottest times of the year in New York City. And what happens when it's hot in New York City? We get a blackout. And during the blackout, several of the members of the community gather fireworks to light the area up to, illuminate and make it safe and beautiful so that people could kind of calm down and focus on the fireworks instead of the lack of electricity. And during that montage, we do see several characters, background characters, breakdancing throughout the film. The one element that we were struggling to find was the DJ, which, I'm used to it, so it doesn't bother me much.
Sorry, Boogie.
He never gets any play.
Not give the DJ some.
The DJ never gets any play, but they were in a club, so there had to be a DJ playing at some point, but we don't see him.
That's true.
But yeah, so those are the elements that we see throughout the film.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Donna, right? Anything else that you picked up on in terms of the hip hop elements?
Boogie really covered it.
Yeah.
I think at one point, the manhole cover, he sort of does he scratch it or something? He does something
Yeah,
with
with his
it.
foot.
So
He got stuck in gum, and he's telling the
Yeah.
story to the little ones at the
Yeah.
beginning, and it kind of swivels and
yeah.
makes a record
So-
scratch sound.
So it's sort of there.
It's sort of there.
It's sort of there.
We get a scratch.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to expand a little bit about the genius that Lin-Manuel Miranda is. I'm a Lin-Manuel Miranda stan. I'm an In the Heights stan, so that's going to kind of spoiler alert for my review. But the songs were so well crafted. As you know, Lin-Manuel Miranda does his homework, as he does with Hamilton. He takes elements from other well-known rappers and he weaves them in. A couple of songs I wanted to point out, which I implore you listeners to go out and listen on Spotify or look at the videos on YouTube. But Benny on the Dispatch, you have Corey Hawkins playing the role of Benny. He works at Kevin Rosario's taxi company and he's a dispatch. And the way he gives the traffic report and he's gyrating, dancing, and you can't help but smile and get into it. It's just a couple lyrics. It's like, okay, we got traffic on the west side, get off at 79th and take the left side, Riverside. He's talking about Big Poppy in town for the weekend. He weaves in something about the Jacob Javits Center. He's giving all these landmarks within the city, and he's making it lively and fun. And at one point within that, towards the end of it, Nina comes in and she takes over and she bellows out a great hello and gets on the mic like she used to do when she was younger for her father. That was awesome. I love that so much. And then the other song with a lot of hip hop that I really enjoyed was 96,000 when they're talking about someone had won the lottery, a lottery ticket, a winning ticket was sold at their store. And I won't get into, where that ends up and everything. But that song with the back and forth with the characters, there's Navi and Benny and even Graffiti Pete is in that. And they're going back and forth talking about braggadocio and other pop culture references. I absolutely love the way they did that. Other than that, I think you covered all the elements there very nicely, Boogie. So thank you for that.
Well,
Benny was like the Weather Adam of cab dispatchers. You know who Weather Adam is on Instagram.
That's right, Weather Adam. That was good. The second takeaway is that, and it's obvious throughout, that Lin-Manuel Miranda had this as a mission to represent multiple Latin cultures. So there were several Latin cultures that were represented, and it shows the diversity of Washington Heights. Donna, right, you want to talk a little bit about a couple of the cultures represented?
Sure. We have at least Puerto Rico and the Dominican and Cuba represented here amongst the characters. Usnavi is Dominican and Abuela is Cuban.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Rosarios are from Puerto Rico. Is that?
They are. Yep. Nina and
right.
Kevin are Puerto Rican.
I'm sure I'm missing other ones, but there's other in there.
Vanessa is a mix, I think, of a few different cultures. Yeah, those were all represented. And when they have the song about raising the flag, I think it's in the barrio, Carnival de Barrio, and they're talking about raise the flag of Puerto Rico. Raise in Spanish, they're saying raise the flag of Cuba, raise the flag of Dominican. It's pretty powerful the way they do that. Yeah, they're all living together in this town and weave together, and they get together for festive meals. And you can see, again, LMM, as I'll call him, he does his homework. And he has just beautiful, there's stitching that you see that came from Cuba. There's the food and all the elements of the various cultures. Boogie, anything to expand upon the Latin cultures as they're represented here?
I mean, there definitely are other cultures in there blended in, because it's some Washington Heights in the movie has become a melting pot. So even though there's others that probably weren't mentioned, the influence is definitely there. I mean, you can see it in the food, in the music, the song selection, the way they carry themselves, even the family orientedness of them. Gathering together, even though they weren't all related by blood. That's a deep rooted Latin thing I've noticed, from several friends. They stick together. But yeah, I think it was very well done in that aspect of showing just how all of the cultures even with the differences, that you see the similarities because they're all blending together really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will add that LMM did get some criticism for not having enough or any darker skinned Afro Latino actors, which he owned up to actually and took responsibility and promised to do better next time. So that was one of the controversies around this film.
LMM himself is Puerto Rican, in case folks didn't know, but he also has some traces of Mexican and African American ancestry as well. So his background is primarily Puerto Rican. Just as a background for listeners here. Okay. Yeah, I can see why he took a little bit of heat on that.
Yeah. I think there was one part to that I remember. I can't remember the name of the song, but they were talking about. They mentioned the Tainos for our listeners. The Tainos are the Native Americans that were in that area of the Caribbean. Then the explorers were coming over to the New World. There were Taino Native Americans there, and also to expand a little further, slavery didn't just exist in the United States; it also existed throughout the Caribbean. So they were influxing large numbers of Africans to that area as well. And then you have the Spanish-speaking Europeans who were in that area. So you get a mix. You get a mix of the cultures together, and that's what gives Puerto Rico its flavor, and also Cuba and the Dominican Republic, which actually is split between on one island is Haiti's on the other side of the island. So they're very similar in how they carry themselves in appearance as well. From the lightest light to the darkest dark and everything in between.
Right. The third takeaway we had is about the vocal talent and the dancing choreography. So the vocal talent is top notch. The dancing and choreography sizzle on the screen here. Boogie, you want to talk a little bit about that as well?
Well, yeah, the songs were amazing. First of all, I didn't realize that Melissa Barrera could sing. I mean, I love her. I mean, I've seen her in a bunch of stuff, and I was like, "Oh, she could sing," but it was good though. And I think like the songs were amazing. I mean, the vocal talent was definitely top notch, and it was good to see that it was a nice compliment to the MCing. So you see, there's rapping going on, and it's good to have that counterbalance of the strong vocal talent. So, but yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. And also the dancing and choreography, I enjoyed that club scene, that Latin club scene. It took me back to the 90s and the early 2000s when I used to be over in New York, and it was just amazing. And I was like kind of like moving along with it as they were dancing because I really love to dance to that music. So it was good that they had that in there as well. And yeah, we mentioned the break dancing as well, briefly, but yeah, I think, and even this ensemble as the characters were singing the songs, and there's the ensemble cast in the background, the choreography was very tight. I mean, it was almost like, I mean, granted, it was based off of the Broadway play, but it was almost like watching a Broadway play in a live action film because you could see the tight Broadway style choreography throughout the film.
Yeah, Melissa Barrera's song, she played the role of Vanessa. The song "It Won't Be Long Now," that really struck a chord with me. She's talking about the elevator train in her apartment and the guys in the street whistling at her. And what I really love about this play is, well, right from the beginning, it drew me in with the hip hop and the rap, and there's a lot of character development that occurs right away through that. This is Abuela. It's not really her abuela. The block is her escuela. And then this is Sonny, my cousin. And I was like, man, I'm drawn right in. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm enjoying the music. I'm learning about the characters. Let's go. But the vocal talent, Melissa Barrera. Corey Hawkins, as I mentioned, with the Dispatch, he weaves in both the rapping and the singing. He shows his vocal range. He has such infectious energy. As you mentioned, the club scene, but also what I thought was a feast for the eyes in terms of the dancing choreography was the pool sequence when they're doing the 96,000 song. There are people dancing and swimming in unison, and there's a lot of colors. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then the Carnival del Barrio, when it's just so hot out, and I think it's Daniela who had owned the salon was like, "What's wrong with you people? When does the heat bother Latins? And let's get out there." And she drums up everybody. Everybody goes nuts, and then they start representing their different countries and celebrating, despite the brutal heat. Donna, anything else on the vocal talent and choreography and dancing?
Yes. So the choreography was from Christopher Scott from So You Think You Can Dance. So I think they brought in big guns for that. You talk about the 96,000 sequence, which is very Busby Berkeley. So listeners, viewers, know who that is. Look them up. Highly choreographed, like a cast of thousands. And it's amazing how they pulled this off in the pool. And I was reading some of the interviews about the production of it. And it's already hard to put together a big dance number like that, but to also do it in a pool where there's also like safety issues, like nobody drowning, when there's 1,000 people in a pool. So very impressive that they pulled this off. And they weren't allowed to use drones because of New York City regulations. So you had to do this kind of old school, and it would be so easy to have a drone shot or even just a crane shot to get above. But yeah, they had to improvise that at least, and it looks fantastic.
Oh yeah, I love that scene. Okay, the one thing that made me laugh at the 96,000 scene was when Vanessa's turn to sing, and she sings with her lovely voice, "If I won the lottery, you'll never see me again." And I'm not going to try to sing it. And then Usnavi's like, "I was joking. Stay broke then." And just it just tickled my funny bone there. Yeah, just awesome. A feast for the eyes. And a fourth takeaway was the film also weaved in serious elements that give the light and bright storytelling some drama and weight. And I know, Dinah Wright, you did a bit of a deeper dive on some of those types of heavy issues. Do you want to give us a little rundown of some of those?
Sure. First of all, there's some racism and discrimination that Nina experiences off camera. Part of the backstory. She goes off to Stanford, which is portrayed as white dominant, and her Latin background does not mesh with this supposed white dominant situation at Stanford in California. And Abuela experiences some discrimination in her backstory as well, coming from Cuba. We have the element of DACA. So DACA is the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals legislation that provides some backstory to Sonny. He turns out to be undocumented and realizes that he can't go to college if he's undocumented. And so the support for DACA is put in as part of the themes that's weaved in. It's also economic hardship. Daniela has to move her salon further uptown to the Bronx from where they are in Washington Heights. Vanessa's issues renting an apartment downtown. She's not rented to. She has to get a co-signer for the lease. And so all of that's weaved in. It was good of Miranda to do this, to give it a little bit of heft to the story. And there got to be some conflict in any good story. So that was really good. And one thing to take away from this part of it is, her advice is to assert your dignity in small ways. And so that's good advice for anyone, because we all experience some kind of hardship in the workplace or wherever, and bringing your full selves to it, asserting your dignity in small ways is certainly something to take away from the film.
Nice rundown. Boogie, anything about the issues there?
No, actually, I don't know if I have much to add to it. I think Diana Wright did a really good job of summing those up. But yeah, I do think that it was good to not just to glamorize everything and make it seem like everything is happy, and he got real with it and showed various issues that have occur throughout the Latin American community, especially not necessarily at Stanford. I mean, that was just a school she happened to go to, but being a first generation college student, and the awkwardness of trying everyone relying on you to be the one. You're the one who made it, and the pressure that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting to school and realizing that, maybe this isn't for me because of, other people's perceptions of her, and having to deal with that, and like the conflict of wanting to be successful and how to tell your family that that's not what you necessarily want to do or where you want to be at. I think that was very, very well done. And even we didn't realize that Sonny was a DACA kid until the end, but even how that tied in, that's very real. That's very, something that's being dealt with now. It's media. It's in the media right now. You can click Google it and you can find any kind of article fairly recent. But yeah, I think that the theme was like everybody's really had a dream, and they all thought that their dreams were little, but none of their little dreams were little. They were all big dreams, and they all deserved to see those dreams through to fruition.
Mm-hmm. One other thing I read about was that Miranda was asked about, there's not only gang elements in this film, even though New York is famous for having sort of gang activity, here, there, and everywhere. And he on purpose didn't have that kind of stuff. Like, he didn't want to do a West Side Story where, of course, the Hispanic people all have knives and are like, ready to rumble in the streets. So that's a choice. And he finds other ways to kind of have that in there, like Graffiti Pete in the beginning, like is like a villain, but then he gets this redemption story. But it was interesting to think, like, yeah, this isn't just like Spanish Harlem kind of thing where, like, oh, of course, sharks and jets.
Right. And I think Boogie, you led us into like our final takeaway number 5, with what you're talking about, the dreams. So takeaway number 5 was there are multiple storylines, all tied towards a common theme of realizing dreams. I guess I'll kick that one off. I mean, there are many dreams, or sueñitos, which means little dreams in Spanish, as Usnavi mentions in the beginning. As I mentioned earlier, Usnavi wanted to get back to the Dominican Republic, his homeland. That was his dream. He wanted to rebuild his late father's business, return to where he grew up, where he had the best days of his life. Vanessa has aspirations to be a fashion designer. She's stuck in her job at the salon, doesn't pay her what she expects, and she has bigger goals. Kevin Rosario wants to support his daughter's education at Stanford, and he's using his taxi business to help finance it. And Nina wants to be the first one to make it out and graduate college. Sonny is kind of just finding his way, and he's dealing with his immigration status. And Benny has a longing for Nina. He's obviously working with his career path and what happens there with the dispatch. And then Abuela's, reminiscing about her upbringing in Cuba as well. So all these storylines tie together. Everybody has a dream. They're all supportive of each other. It's a village there, which is nice to see. Donna, you want to add into the commonality of these characters having their dreams, how they weave together, etc.?
Yeah, it's you covered it really well. A.O. Scott in the New York Times wrote about how In the Heights is kind of like a thematic sequel to Hamilton. It happens much later, of course, but it's got the same kind of thing, like American dreams, making something bigger than yourself. And so this is sort of like the modern day sort of extrapolation or like result of what Alexander Hamilton was doing during the birth of the Republic. And so it's interesting to think about that, like, oh, this is kind of what Alexander Hamilton was thinking of, like people being able to achieve America as a place of opportunity. And so that was a cool kind of thing, to think about as like not Hamilton 2, but like, I don't know, maybe Hamilton 2 Latino Boogaloo or something.
Alternate title. Nicely put. Boogie, anything to add on the dreams of the characters and those themes?
Yeah, I mean, the common theme with, why people immigrate to the United States in the first place is because they have a dream. They're dreaming of something better. They want something better, not necessarily just for them, but for their, for their children, their family members. So, I mean, that theme like you said, even to tie back to how Hamilton was the American dream and starting a new country, etc. And being, starting this amazing country. And now we see, years later, centuries later, we have people immigrating here to want to achieve the dream as well. So yeah, I do see how, it definitely ties into that. I definitely see the correlation between that tying into Hamilton. And I think that films like this are necessary because, I do like the fact that he purposefully left out, gang elements and kind of put a more positive spin on the neighborhood and, the people. This is necessary. People need to see, films like this, and it's inspirational,
I also like the kind of dichotomy of go for your dream, work hard, but also Abuela has that wisdom. She had an expression she used throughout the film of paciencia y fe, like patience and faith. And it's like,
Yes.
go for your dream, but have that patience and faith in yourself and maybe of a higher being as well. Yeah, nicely done. I have a question for you guys off the cuff. Did either of you take AP English in high school? And I ask because you're both very well spoken. And you did.
Thank you, but I did not actually take AP English. I actually slummed it in honors English.
Honors is no slum. Boogie, did you take AP English? Or?
I had honors English as well.
Okay. So the reason I asked too, I took 2 years of AP English. I think it was like 10th grade and 12th grade. And the reason I say this is I really got into analyzing some classic literature and really looking for metaphors and similes. It seems like we're always looking for a lot of metaphors and motifs and themes. Mm-hmm. And this one like naturally drew me to that. I was picking up metaphors and I wanted to kind of explain a few and that I picked up, which I thought were incredibly done. And I bet you LMM was an AP student to be able to write these plays like Hamilton and In the Heights and Moana and whatnot. You see Lin-Manuel Miranda himself plays the piragua cart guy. Piragua meaning the shaved ice. And he's singing, one of his songs is Keep Scraping By, Keep Scraping By. So that is obviously a metaphor for everybody just kind of just getting by, doing what they need to get by economically, socially, sometimes by the skin of their teeth. But like every day, they might be broke or they might be making minimum wage or whatever, but it's like, hey, keep following that dream. But he uses the term keep scraping by, and it's scraping the ice as well. Usnavi has the one song, and I think it's towards the beginning, because he's like, I'm a spotlight choking in the heat. And I love that metaphor where the spotlight or street light, not spotlight. I'm a street light choking in the heat. The street light's just out there standing and it's just taking all the heat. And he feels the same way where he's stuck. He's getting all the elements pushed at him, but he's just stuck there, like cemented in place.
Yeah.
He's got the bodega, that he runs with his cousin. And he needs to do that to survive, but he has the aspirations to go on to the DR. And at what point can he get to that level where he makes enough to move on, and how can he leave? So he's feeling that strain. And then in the blackout, they're singing the song, We Are Powerless. We are powerless, we are powerless. And again, to the same theme of, yes, they're powerless in terms of they're without electricity.
Right.
But they're also, a lot of them are feeling, they're without any type of freedom or strength because everything's so oppressive. The heat is oppressive. Maybe the system's oppressive. They're not able to advance as much as they want. So I picked up on those things and I thought, wow, that was really well done. If you watch these again, maybe you'll pick up on some of these metaphors out there.
It is well crafted.
Yeah, real well crafted.
Thematically, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure again it was intentional by Lin-Manuel Miranda. There's a lot of emotion. I mean, what I like is that this film gives you all the emotions. You feel joy. You laugh. There's some funny lines. There's some jokes. You're dancing. You're I'm almost brought to tears. Sometimes when I do watch it, I'm crying because I feel so emotional for Nina. Nina has so much pressure on her. She's, like you said, Boogie, everybody is invested in her being the one to make it out. And she's having a hard time. She's being discriminated against. People are talking, in the salon, they're talking about rumors about her. And it's just tough to see someone have to deal with all that at such a young age. And, you feel for Abuela and the families, etc. And Kevin struggles financially. In fact, if you guys didn't know, the musical is different. There's certain different elements. I saw an off-Broadway performance of it last summer, which was excellent. And actually, Nina's mother, Kevin Rosario's wife, is actually in it. She plays a pretty prominent role in it. And there's a lot of bickering back and forth about the situation with the college and everything. Yeah, there's some slight differences there.
If you can believe it, this movie's like 145 minutes, and they cut out a lot from the musical.
Yeah. That's wild.
Wow.
You have any other tidbits about the movie that you picked up upon that you wanted to share with the audience?
There's a lot of familiar faces in it, in this film, and which was good. I mean, I didn't know that some of these actors and actresses were in the movie, but there's a lot of familiar faces. And I'm not going to go through them like I normally would. I'm going to just kind of let the viewers get the surprise that I did.
I mean, a couple of bigger.
No, I will say this
Go
one,
ahead.
though.
Good, Boogie.
Christopher Jackson.
Yes.
The Mr. Softy truck driver. That was one of the biggest ones, but I had a feeling that one of the guys from Hamilton would make their way over to this one. And Christopher Jackson played George Washington in Hamilton. So, yeah, shout out to him in his role in this movie as well. Oh, and also Mark Anthony. I was like, wow, Mark Anthony? He didn't sing, but he was in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He can use his voice.
Played Sonny's father. And Jimmy Smits is in it.
Yeah, the great Jimmy Smits.
Jimmy Smits has been in a ton of things in the Star Wars franchise as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great cast. Great ensemble.
Yeah.
As one funny tidbit I liked as well was the way that Uznavi, which is a unique name, how he got his name.
Yes.
Based on a ship that was seen by his father when he came over to the U.S. I won't totally give it away. You could probably figure it out.
That was funny.
Yeah. This film adaptation had a lot of the elements that I like. Comedy, drama, hip hop, music,
Especially hip hop.
Yeah. For me, this is a feel good movie, even though there is some sadness as well. But it's a feel good movie. Like when summer comes around, I put this on. Now it's only a few years old, but like I'll put this on the background because it's one of those where the music is so excellent that I'm just happy hearing a lot of those songs. And I have a Spotify playlist, and I have pretty much the whole soundtrack as part of a big playlist. So when it comes on, it makes me smile.
Yeah, this film made me want to get in the car and drive through the heights, which I haven't done. I haven't done that in probably about 15 years or so. But yeah, I used to go up to the heights every so often, at least a few times a year. But yeah, this made me want to drive over there and ride through the neighborhood.
One thing that amused me was that when they're in the club and Usnavi is dropping the ball and not dancing with Vanessa, but then he dances with the other girl to try to make Vanessa jealous. And it's just like, you remember Grease where Sandy Zuko dances with Chacha Di Gregorio instead of Sandy? This made me laugh so much.
Yeah. Yeah. In that club scene, we also get the classic, split down the middle, guys on one side, girls on the other side. It shows what you got.
Yeah.
I mean, I have an affinity also for Latin culture. I was a Spanish minor in college when we all went to Rider, and I learned a lot about different Latin cultures, but I hadn't really visited some of those countries or really had some of these experiences. And to see it on the screen it was nice. Nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I too have an affinity for the Latin culture as well. Fortunately, I haven't been to Cuba yet,
Yeah.
but
Not
I've
yet.
been to Puerto Rico and I've been to Dominican Republic. Enjoyed both of them immensely.
Yeah, a lot of the Latin cultures are vibrant, and they have a good
Oh,
time.
in Mexico, yeah. Can't forget Mexico. Been there too.
I have a really good
Good
friend
movie.
who's Cuban, and he said that they did an excellent job with the food that Abuela was cooking, saying, "Oh my goodness, it took him back. It took him back to his childhood and what his family would cook."
Yeah, I wanted to lick the screen when they showed that food. I was like, oh my God. I know exactly what that tastes like. I want
Yeah.
some now.
Right,
I
exactly.
want some right now.
Mm-hmm. For real. All right, so let's put a bow on this one. Let's go around the room and give our ratings for In the Heights. Boogie, as usual, we'll start with you. So for the film version of In the Heights, will you bring that funky flick back?
Bring that
or
funky
leave it in the
flick
vault?
back.
Yeah, I mean, can't help but to bring this funky flick back. I mean, I've already recommended to a few people to check out already. So yeah, bring that funky flick back.
All right, on. Dino Right. Bring that funky flick back or leave it in the vault.
I'll bring this funky flick back. It did have some flaws. I thought it was a little long, and it was edited in a way that you almost don't get to enjoy it. It's just sort of abrupt in some places, and big dance numbers are hard to film, right? And shout out to John M. Chu, the director of this film. He did really well with a tall task, but overall, it's really fun. So I bring this funky flick back.
As for me, I think it goes without saying I'm bringing this funky flick back. Sometimes I talk about this film incessantly to my
people.
family.
He really does.
Yeah, I bring it up, and my family starts shaking their head like again, and like I'm putting it on in the background.
You're like a kid
it.
with Disney movies or something.
Yeah, this is one of my all-time favorites. I tell someone like you said, Boogie, I recommended this to so many people. I'm like, have you seen In the Heights? Have you seen In the Heights? No. All right, put it on, check it out. And it's all the reasons we mentioned, the dancing, the choreography, the music, the storylines. There's some great heavy topics, light topics. It's got it all to me, and it's packaged well. And I'm a huge fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda in general. Whatever he touches turns to gold. He does his homework. He's a hardworking guy. Loved it.
Hip Hop Movie Club is produced by your HHMCs, JB, Boogie, and Dino Right. Theme music by Boogie. Whether you're listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube, please give us a follow. It's a real power-up for us. Thanks for tuning in.
Remember, don't hate, radiate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shine
Like the
bright
sun.
like a diamond.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah, radiate out in the sun, but be careful with the harmful UV rays.
Yes, get some SPF.
Right on.
Yes.